For this week's First Chapter Friday, I'm going to be reading Light and Air by Mindy Nichols Wendell. I don't know anything about this author. Again, we're doing one of these Mark Twain nominees. However, this one has got some high praise on the back, including Best Book of the Year from the School Library Journal, so that tells me it's going to be pretty good. It's historical fiction, takes place in 1935, and it's about tuberculosis. So, without further delay, here is Light and Air by Mindy Nichols Wendell. Chapter 1. September 1935. The doors of the small white schoolhouse burst open. Children spilled out into the garden afternoon like bees whose hive had been disturbed. The oldest boys came first, shoving and scowling. Most of them were headed home to help in the fields. Getting out of school early didn't mean nearly as much to them as it did to Hallie, who tumbled out the door arm in arm with Thelma, her best friend. Hallie squinted up at the brilliant blue September sky and grinned. It was the kind of blue that made you feel very small, but also very hopeful. Taking a deep breath, she filled her lungs with the fresh, sweet air. She couldn't wait to get home, fly through her chores, and then spend the rest of this perfect afternoon outside pretending it was still summer. Jeannie and Fran, two of the other fifth-grade girls, caught up with Hallie and Thelma. "Don't forget to bring your paper dolls tomorrow, Hallie," Jenny said, "so we can make more clothes for them at lunch." "I'll remember," Hallie promised. Jeannie dreamed of becoming a dress designer and liked to practice by making paper doll clothes. She especially loved dressing the dolls Hallie's mother had made, and she said they looked more like real girls than store-bought paper dolls. She called Mama an artist. "Too bad you won't be here, Thelma," Fran said, trying to keep a straight face. "That's all right," Thelma said with a shrug. "No one likes the clothes I make anyway, not even Hallie's dolls." The girls stole quick looks at each other, their eyes merry. Then Jenny and Fran gave up trying not to laugh. Even Hallie joined in after seeing Thelma's cheerful smile. "They're not that bad," Jeannie said, putting an arm around Thelma. "Yes, they are," Fran said, still giggling. "They look like potato sacks." "Come on, Fran," Jenny said. "I'll race you to the corner." She and Fran took off running. "Have fun in Buffalo, Thelma," Jeannie called over her shoulder. The grin on Hallie's face faded. Every couple of months, Thelma had visited her grandmother in the city, going to concerts, museums, operas. Each time she went, she got to miss school on Friday, so she could have 3 full days in Buffalo. Hallie held on to a secret wish that she'd get to go along someday. "See you Monday," Thelma said. She squeezed Hallie's hand, then turned and skipped toward her father's car. With a half-hearted wave, Hallie watched as Thelma clambered into the front seat. Mr. Moran leaned over to give his daughter a kiss on the cheek before he put the car into gear. Hallie sighed and turned toward home. School days without Thelma were not half as much fun. But Hallie pushed that gloomy thought away for now. No use borrowing trouble, as Mama always said. She took the long way home, ducking under the barbed wire fences and tromping through cow pastures. She banged her metal lunchbox on fence posts and tree trunks as she walked. She hated that ugly old thing. It looked more like a suitcase than a lunchbox. If this one got shabby enough, maybe Mama would agree to buy her a new one. But she had to be patient. Mama did not like it when she asked for things she didn't need. "Look around you, Hallie," she'd say. "Times are tight. Be grateful for what you have." Well, when Hallie looked around, what she saw were shiny new Mickey Mouse lunchboxes like Thelma's, with separate little trays that kept your lunch sandwich from getting squished by your apple. As soon as she pulled open the screen door, Hallie spied a near-empty bushel basket of apples on the floor by the table, and Mama's trusty silver canning kettle on the stove. She sighed, knowing she'd be lucky to get any free time at all before dinner. "Hi, Glory. How was school?" Mama asked with a tired smile. Hallie's full name was Hallelujah Grace Newton. In fact, she didn't advertise much. Since she was little, Mama had called her Glory. Hallie liked the nickname. It made her think not only of the old hymns Mama sang around the house, but also of the cheerful blue morning glories that covered the front porch railings and greeted her every day until the first frost. "Fine," Hallie mumbled. She put her lunch bucket on the counter. Mama took one look at the new scuffs on it and said, "We do not have the money for a new lunchbox. Please take it easy on that one. What did you do, kick it home?" Good idea, Hallie thought. "Grab another paring knife," Mama said. I meant to have the applesauce done by the time you got home, but this heat is slowing me down. Little tendrils of honey-colored hair had sprung free from Mama's braid and clung to her damp neck. Her cheeks were flushed with the heat. Her gray eyes, always a dead giveaway to her feelings, were calm today, but lined with weariness. As Hallie's gaze took in the line of sterile canning jars on the counter and the pile of curly apple peels already on the table, evidence of Mama's long day, she felt bad about banging her lunch bucket around, trying to get something they couldn't afford. Small knife in hand, she plunked down on one of the old kitchen chairs to help. Mama pared the rest of the runty little apples from the oldest tree in their tiny orchard. Mama's applesauce was legendary, and she always said the transparent apples were her secret ingredient. Hallie's mouth puckered just thinking about biting into one of the tart green fruits, but she couldn't resist slipping a sliver into her mouth. So sour it made her eyes water. The slim slice tasted of crisp fall air and clear cold water. Soon the apples were bubbling on the stove, making the kitchen even steamier than before. Still, no matter how hot the weather, Mama drank coffee. She liked it deep and rich with just a bit of cream. She made herself a cup and poured a glass of lemonade for Hallie. When the apples were soft, Hallie started mashing them, and Mama added equal portions of honey and white sugar, another one of her secrets. Gran always used brown sugar in her sauce, Mama said, right on cue. But I like the taste of honey better. Hallie knew how much Mama missed her own Mama. Gran had died of pneumonia 2 years ago. Mama liked talking about her. She said it brought her back again for a minute. Hallie reached for the cinnamon, and just like always, Mama said, Go easy on the cinnamon at first. You can always add more, but you can't take it out if you put too much in. Such a thing as too much cinnamon didn't seem possible, but as with nearly everything else, she trusted Mama's advice, adding the cinnamon bit by bit. She took careful little tastes until it was just right. Of all the kitchen chores, making applesauce was one of the best, but Hallie's eyes kept darting to the window and that perfect blue sky. She turned back and found Mama watching her with the soft look in her gray eyes. All right, Hallie, I'll finish up. You can go. Are you sure, Mama? Hallie asked, hoping she was. I'm sure. Just be back in time to snap the beans for supper. Hallie grabbed her book and dashed out the door before Mama could change her mind. As she made her way across the prickly end of summer grass, watching grasshoppers spring off in every direction, she thought about Mama and how her life was just one big series of chores. She remained cheerful about it most of the time, but still, it didn't make Hallie too excited to grow up. She wondered if part of being a mother was getting to a point where you just stopped wanting things for yourself. Mama was forever putting other people's needs and wants ahead of her own. Hallie never saw her relaxing under a tree with a book in her lap. If she ever did sit down, she usually had her basket of mending or her knitting. Papa, on the other hand, seemed to have a lot of time to do what he wanted. He spent whole afternoons reading history books or taking long walks in the woods. Then again, all that freedom didn't seem to make him happy. Thoughts about Mama and Papa and adulthood melted away as she settled into her favorite spot beneath the low-hanging branches of the willow tree. She opened her book and was soon lost in the latest scrape Anne had gotten herself into at Green Gables. Clang, 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 clang. The dinner bell. How could it be dinner time already? Hallie groaned. Mama must have done the beans herself. Hallie slammed her book shut, jumped to her feet, and ran toward the house. No use making things worse by coming late to the table. Sorry, Mama, she murmured as she hurried into the kitchen, taking the bowl of green beans from her mother's hand and setting them on the table next to the pork chops. I lost track of time. It's all right, Mama said, as she handed Hallie the heavy stone water pitcher. Hallie let out the breath she'd been holding. Mama didn't sound too mad. To tell you the truth, it felt good to sit for a few minutes. I've always liked snapping peas. They smell fresh like summer rain. With her cheeks still flushed and a sheen of sweat on her forehead, Mama looked as though she could use a cool late summer rain. As she turned to dish up the still warm applesauce, a fit of coughing stopped her in her tracks. I'll do all the cleanup tonight, Hallie said quickly, just as Papa came through the door. The high school classes Papa taught ended at 3:30, but he stayed late every day grading papers and preparing for the next morning. The boys who attended his school didn't get out early for farm chores. They either skipped school altogether on harvest days, or they simply dropped out after 8th grade. Papa had lots of opinions about this. He believed everyone needed a high school education at the very least. You bet you will, he said. His stern words aimed at Hallie felt like a blast of icy wind, but his sharp blue eyes barely grazed her as they focused on Mama. Hallie saw them take in Mama's pink cheeks and trembling hands as she smoothed the hair off her forehead. "You need to help out more around here, Hallie," he said. "Your mother is not your servant." "It's fine, Graham," Mama said quickly, putting a hand on his arm. "Hallie helped me with the applesauce earlier. She does plenty of chores, you know that." A look passed between them. Papa frowned, then nodded slightly, turning to wash his hands in the sink. Why does he always do that? This was between Mama and me. It had nothing to do with him. Hallie set her lips in a firm line to keep from saying something that would upset Mama, but inside she seethed. Lately, it seemed like Hallie couldn't do anything right as far as Papa was concerned. She missed the days when she was small and Papa would swing her onto his broad shoulders and say, "Glory, hallelujah, you're getting big. How's the weather up there?" Hallie would laugh and say, "The weather's just fine," as she twirled her fingers in his curly brown hair. Mama would laugh from her rocking chair where she sat darning Hallie's little socks and say, "Be careful of the beams, Graham." As Papa twirled Hallie around the room, Hallie was never scared, though. She loved the way the world looked from up there. It felt like nothing could ever hurt her. When had all that changed? She thought it must have something to do with the babies Mama had lost. Hallie's heart ached just thinking about those sad times. Over the years, she'd grown used to the signs. Mama would start smiling softly to herself and knitting little booties. Papa would be even more protective than usual, urging her to sit down, bringing her lemonade. Mama's stomach would start to round. Then, far too early, Dr. Gray would be summoned. Mama would spend days in bed, tears slipping down her cheeks. Papa would slam around the house, yelling at Hallie for making too much noise. And finally, a little wooden cross would appear at the edge of the orchard. 4 little crosses now. Mama would be teary for weeks, and Papa would be angry. Mama eventually cheered up, at least mostly, but Papa's fury just seemed to build and build. Funny how the same thing made one person sad and another angry. Hallie understood being sad about losing a baby, but why did it make Papa so mad? And why did he take it out on her? "For goodness sake, quit your daydreaming and help your mother finish getting dinner on the table," Papa snapped, cutting into Hallie's thoughts. Hallie grabbed the bowl of applesauce and banged it down on the table next to the beans. "Watch it, young lady," Papa warned. The angry words about to burst through Hallie's pursed lips died on her tongue when Mama started coughing again. The racking cough shook her body. Tears trickled out of her eyes. She grabbed hold of the back of the chair to steady herself just as Papa put a strong arm around her shoulders. "Sit down, Iz," he said gently. "I'm sorry." "I'm sorry too," Hallie whispered, as she handed Mama a napkin and reached for the pitcher to pour her a glass of water. Papa put a hand on Mama's forehead. "You're feverish." Mama was almost never sick. She always said the honey water that she drank every morning kept her healthy. But now that Hallie thought about it, Mama hadn't been quite herself for several weeks. She'd been tired, and Hallie had heard her coughing at night. Whenever she or Papa mentioned it, Mama said she was just a little run down, or maybe it was hay fever. When Mama finally caught her breath and reached for the glass of water, she dropped the napkin she'd been holding to her mouth. 2 spots of bright red blood bloomed on the soft white linen. Papa's eyes shifted instantly from concerned to alarmed. "Get her into bed," he ordered. "I'm going for the doctor." He was out the door in a flash, and before Hallie helped Mama to her feet, Papa's old Ford was skidding down the lane. Hallie's heart pounded in her ears, and her knees felt shaky. "Deep breaths," she reminded herself, echoing what Mama always said. "Just keep breathing." Things happened fast after that.